Welcome back to Fight News Now. It's time to switch things over and welcome in our analysts John Ramdina and Robin Black, as this weekend it's Austin, Texas on the map. More fights from the UFC and a huge featherweight fight.
Yeah, you look at the main event and this is A++ matchmaking from the Ultimate Fighting Championship. You have one of the pound-for-pound best fighters, maybe in the history of mixed martial arts, in Frankie Edgar. Essentially, this guy should be fighting at 135 pounds, but somehow he managed to win the UFC's 155-pound title, and he challenged for the UFC's 145-pound title. But everybody believes that it is Cub Swanson's time. I don't know if it's his time to beat Frankie Edgar, because we all know that Frankie Edgar's the man. But we've seen Cub Swanson evolve, mature since his days in the WEC, and since that first fight against Jose Aldo, he's a better fighter, he's a more experienced fighter, he's a more intelligent fighter, and possibly a more deadly fighter than he's ever been.
Yeah, this could possibly be the single greatest featherweight fight, non-title featherweight fight ever. It's so good. From a personal perspective, this is my favorite fight, my favorite matchup in years and years and years. I just broke down Frankie Edgar for 5 rounds on Monday, and I went through and studied 7, 8 fights, and the guy's a genius. The way that he ties together all of his elements, and he puts together a different game every night, so you don't know what his intentions are in some of his wrestling. He leverages wrestling in fascinating ways. But Cub Swanson, for my money, is the most exciting fighter. That combination of elegance and power in the way he moves is so beautiful to watch. This fight's hard to pick. Frankie Edgar's a very large favorite, according to the betting guys, but I think that's a mistake. This is a very close fight.
What's interesting is UFC President Dana White says that Cub Swanson will get a shot at Jose Aldo if he defeats Frankie Edgar in this fight. Is it that simple? Because we've seen that Frankie Edgar, even when he loses fights, he loses by the smallest of margins. And I think in order for Cub Swanson to actually get that crack at the title, he has to devastate Frankie Edgar.
Yeah, and that is a challenge. He's capable of it, man. The guy's very explosive. It's his attributes, his physical and mental attributes, I think, that make him such a special fighter. And that'll be the key to this fight, because Frankie's game is almost perfection. So you have to have an inhuman amount of will. You have to have a little more power than him in situations. You have to be a little faster than him. It has to be about attributes. Cub Swanson has a flow to his game that's incredibly beautiful to watch, and incredibly devastating at times, but he needs to win the little battles. He needs to be a little better everywhere. That's incredibly, incredibly hard to do. He's the bigger man. I think he's the stronger man. I think he has more fast twitch muscle. I mean, you said it. I think Frankie Edgar's the best bantamweight that's ever lived, and the dude has never even fought at bantamweight.
For Cub Swanson, I think the game plan is to try to hurt Frankie Edgar, because we've seen that guys have been able to take advantage when Frankie's hurt, because talking about trying to out-heart Frankie, absolutely impossible. The guy has just the biggest balls maybe in all of mixed martial arts. He finds a way to come back. He finds a way to win. And in order for Cub Swanson to do the things that he needs to do, he has to inflict pain on Frankie Edgar.
Yeah, he does. He needs to break him down. Frankie Edgar in rounds 4 and 5 is a monster. He's got inhuman cardio. He just keeps pushing. He cannot be broken. So you need to smash him up. Can he smash up his legs with leg kicks? Swanson needs to be used just as much variety as Edgar does. I can't wait for this fight, man. You and I are commentating Fight for Pride in Laval, Quebec. Somehow we got to get right from there to Cajo Sport and watch this fight, because it's just the best fight going.
We anticipate that this fight will probably be the fight of the night. There's a reason why it is the main event, but you look at the supporting cast of this card that's going down in the Lone Star State, and there are so many fights that could deliver fight of the night. You have Bobby Green taking on Edson Barbosa. You know, going into the fight against Josh Thompson, I don't think a lot of people had Green, it's like, well, where does this guy stand? We saw what he's capable of. And then you look at the rest of the card, Brad Pickett and Chico Camus, an outstanding matchup. The question that has to be asked, Chico Camus going back to the Rufus Sport Gym, led by Duke Rufus, and with all the whole situation surrounding Duke right now, is that the right camp to be in?
I think so, because Duke's leadership is just beyond reproach. He's a great leader. He will never let any of these weird distractions. For those of you who don't know, there was a death at one of Duke's shows. After that death, and that's a tragic thing. Duke's been depressed, and the whole team has. But after that, a couple of key members of the team have since gone on and complained about the environment.
Eric Schaefer, Pat Barry, guys that have fought in the UFC.
Respected people. And they complained about the environment, but that the environment, causation and correlation are not the same thing. That environment had nothing to do with the tragic loss of this guy, but all of that is a stress. But Duke's a great leader. There's a family environment, and it's often those family environments where you get that angry father approach sometimes that some of them complain about, but it's a great environment, and I think Chico Camus will look good. But despite all that, Brad Pickett, this is his time right now. At 125, this is where this guy needs to be. He needs this win.
And I don't want to sound like a broken record, but we've said it in the past that, all you need is a couple of victories, especially impressive victories at 125 pounds. They're running out of challengers for Demetrius Johnson. It's a good opportunity for both Chico Camus and Brad Pickett, but for my money, I have to look at the fight at 125 pounds between Joseph Benavidez, one of the most talented guys in the flyweight class, taking on Dustin Ortiz, definitely one of the most underrated fighters at 125 pounds. I really believe that Dustin Ortiz can win this fight, and these two fighters can deliver fight of the night.
And the winners of those two, what a good fight that is. Ortiz can win it. Will he? He has to be better than he's ever been to do so.
We also see the return of Matt Wyman and the UFC debut of Do Ho Choi. This is one guy everybody has to watch out for.
Are you guys picking, Swanson or Edgar?
I'm going to have to say Frankie Edgar because he is the effing man.
All right, and according to John Ramdeen, the biggest balls in MMA. Maybe that's a future list we'll have on 5 rounds. And you can catch 5 rounds Monday night at 7 p.m. Eastern with John and Robin. We're going to take a short timeout, but when we come back, we're going to be taking a look at Far Cry 4 on the shift, and we've got a very unique viral video for you this week.